Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a distinct honor and privilege to welcome you all to the launch of this remarkable book, The Making of a Judge. Today, we are here to celebrate the literacy works for being a judge. My name is Linda Mumasaba. I am your moderator, and I hand over to my co-moderator now.
Thank you very much, Linda, and thank you to everybody that is joining this amazing book launch. And who are we celebrating today? We are celebrating the life of Honorable Justice Asnath Ongeri. She's a Kenyan judge and author with over 35 years of service in the judiciary of Kenya. Admitted to the bar in 1987, she began her career in 1989 and was appointed a judge of the High Court in 2015. Throughout her judicial career, she has served at Garsen, Mombasa, Kericho, and Voi High Courts. In addition to her legal work, Lady Justice Asnath is passionate about the transformative power of knowledge. In 2014, she wrote her first book, and today she's launching her third book, which my co-moderator just mentioned a little earlier, The Making of a Judge, with more books actually in progress. So you want to follow her on her social media platforms so that you don't miss out both on this book and the others that are in the kitchen coming. Now, she believes that knowledge is key to personal growth and societal change, and uses her writing to share her testimony and help others to prepare for the second coming of Christ. Already you know that she's passionate about her faith. Justice Asnath has been married to Gilbert Kambuni Ongeri for 40 years, and they have 4 daughters and 4 grandchildren. Through her career and her writing, she continues to inspire others with her belief in the power of knowledge to transform lives and communities. And so today we are celebrating the book and the launch of the book, and I want her to introduce herself so that you just don't hear it from me, but let's hear from her, and then we will introduce our other guests. Judge, please introduce yourself.
Hi, again, my name is Asnath Ongeri. I am a judge of the High Court of Kenya. And apart from being a judge, I am a wife, a mother of 4 daughters, all of them grown-ups, and 4 grandchildren. I am a preacher. I am also a singer, and I call myself an ambassador of mediation. I'm passionate about mediation as a method of resolving disputes. But apart from that, I am an author. I'm passionate about the publishing ministry. I published my first book in 2014, and this is my third book, The Making of a Judge. The reason I wrote this book is that after I wrote the first book, many people kept asking me about my life journey. I did not talk much about myself in the first book. So I decided to write this book in order to inspire someone that it is possible to attain your dreams. So I have 4 thematic areas in the book. I talk about faith and transformation. In the first book, I talked about something that happened that changed my life. When I was traveling in a public bus and I was involved in an accident. Before that, I dreamed of being an author. But I think that is what spurred me to start writing, because I realized that life can be transient. Don't wait for big occasions to fulfill your dream. Just do what you have to do when you have to do it. So I became an author with that incident. And now I've talked about the journey of faith and the role faith has played in the making of this judge, of me as a judge. I have also talked about resilience. I have talked about personal trials and delays. Before I became a judge, I worked for the Judiciary of Kenya for 25 years as a magistrate. And at one time, I almost gave up on the dream of becoming a judge. But with the new constitution, things happened. And here I am, and I've written all these stories to encourage someone who has a dream to know that all dreams are attainable. I've also talked about justice and integrity, about upholding societal and institutional values, and also withstanding pressure. I've told some of the stories that made me whom I am today. So I call it footprints of faith, the stories that transformed my life. Some of them happened in such a manner that I did not have an idea that God was preparing me to become a judge of the High Court of Kenya one day. And one of the incidents is something that happened when I was a young girl in the village, when one day auctioneers visited our home and carted away everything. I became very curious about what law is all about. There was no lawyer in my village. But when I talked to my mother about becoming a lawyer, she told me, no, nobody will marry you if you become a lawyer. But today, I am here because one who was then my friend and now my husband encouraged me to take up this career. I have also talked about empowering others. I want everyone to be encouraged that you can attain your dreams in this life. You can actually attain your dreams. At the time I dreamt of being a lawyer, I did not see how it was going to be possible. So my father kept on saying, one day you'll go to university, even before I knew what university was. But because of that affirmation, I want to thank my family. I want to thank my husband for encouraging me to take up the law career. He has stood with me, and he is always my supporter. I also want to thank our children who have worked with me in this journey. I also want to thank friends, some of whom, and my mentors, some of whom I've invited to be my guests in this book launch. So you're welcome, and we will tell you more about the book. Apart from The Making of a Judge, I've written 2 other books.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lady Justice, for that amazing introduction of yourself and the book. So I would like to introduce our 2 guests who have joined us for this book launch. And so I will just request Your Lordship, Chief Justice Emeritus, kindly introduce yourself. I know you are not new to many of the people that we are talking to today, but just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. My name is Willie Mutunga, and I was Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court 2011 to 2016. I don't like the word retired because it has a suggestion that you are tired. I'm also currently an adjunct professor in public law at Kabak Law School.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We'll come back to you so that you can talk to us a bit about the role of mentorship in professional development. But I want our next guest to kindly introduce yourself to those who have joined us for this book launch.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Dr. Jane Nyakango. I'm an environmental scientist, currently a consultant for the UN, United Nations Environment Program, and the World Bank in the area of environment and social safeguards. I am the former chairman of University Council, Dedan Kimathi University, and also president of the African Roundtable on Sustainable Consumption and Production. And happy to be here. Justice Ongeri has really inspired me. I look up to her, and she's my big sister, so I'm happy to be here at this book launch.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jane Nyakango, for joining us on this panel today. I forgot to say my name. My name is Lorraine Magotsi, and I'm your co-moderator today. So I'll just hand it over to my co-moderator, Linda, and she will take us through some questions just for the author, Her Ladyship, Justice Asna, so that we're able to understand more about why did you write the book. You've told us the message in the book, but there are other things that perhaps people would like to know. How was your journey? And so my co-moderator will take us through that.
Judge, you've told us that you're a mother, you're a judge. What really inspired you into writing this book, given the fact that you have a lot in your hands? I know the work of a judge is a lot. What really inspired you to write this book, The Making of a Judge?
I grew up desiring to be an author. I think one of the things that inspired me to love law is the much reading. My father was a teacher, and he used to bring home lots of books. So I read a lot of books, storybooks. I read many of the authors, the African authors, Chinua Achebe, and Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Michere Mugo. So I dreamed of becoming an author one day. But when I studied law, I found that being a magistrate and then later a judge was a full-time career. There was hardly time to do any writing. But I kept on desiring that one day I'll do my book. Until that day when I had this incident, when I was involved in an accident and I almost lost my life. And then I realized that it's possible to go to the grave with your song and song. And it is possible to dream about things which you never do. So out of that experience, I decided now to live my dream life. So before that, I was just a career magistrate, going to court and back home and not involved in anything. But there was a remarkable change. My transformation had started. And now I have done 3 books and many are in the pipeline. So I realized that you have to budget your time. Much as you have a lot of judgments to draft, a lot of cases to hear, you have got to live your passion. So I started creating time to write. And you don't have to have all the time. If you dedicate 5 minutes each day to draft something and you throw it somewhere, and then one day you retreat and put together the book. That's how I started to write. So that accident was a wake-up call. And a lot of the incidents I've talked about in my book were things which happened that at that time when they happened, I thought it was a bad thing. But later, I came to discover that God uses all these things to shape your life and to direct you in a particular direction. So that is why I wrote my book, to encourage someone who is going through challenges to know that you can overcome challenges and live your dream life.
And maybe, Judge, given your vast experience in the judiciary, 35 years of experience, did you have any challenges in writing about the judicial process? I read your book and you talked about this lady, your friend, Atieno. And I would really love to know where Atieno is at the moment. But as you were writing this book, did you face any challenges with regard to writing on the judicial process?
What I decided to do is to write my personal stories. I call them footprints of faith. I decided to write what inspired me, the most interesting cases I did, the saddest cases I encountered, and also walking through the Judiciary Museum, I realized that my picture is actually there as one of the pioneer women in the judiciary. So I decided to write my interaction with the Chief Justices. Today, our current Chief Justice is my 10th Chief Justice since I joined the judiciary. So I decided to talk about each of them and how they impacted my life. As for the girl Atieno, I have never met her. But I remember that she was my friend in primary school. And because she was different, she came from a different community, spoke a different language, she was bullied. I took upon myself to protect her. Little did I know God was preparing me one day to be a judge. Now looking back, I realized that whatever happens in your life, it has a bearing in what you become. But I see God's hand in it. I see God guiding and opening doors, which I never knew were going to be opened for me. So I realized that even as a young, growing up child in the village, I had that sense of justice. I also remember a neighbor who I saw one day crying and putting her hands on her head. So I talked to my mom and I asked her, why is she crying? And mom told me, it's because some people went and grazed her crops.
Yeah.
And then I asked her, why? And then she said, she's a widow and there was no one to protect her. So I decided to do something for the vulnerable, for the weak in society.
Thank you very much, Judge. Chief Justice Emeritus, maybe do you have a few questions to our author?
No, not at all. But I've read the draft, and there are interesting stories about the judiciary itself, which is told truthfully. One of the things also I noticed, which a lot of judges don't talk about, because when we talk about corruption in the judiciary, we tend to talk about the executive, parliament, the corporate sector, the civil society sector, but we rarely mention our families. And there's this story she tells, which is amazing, where her father comes with somebody who wants to be our agent, and the talk there is the judiciary can make a lot of money, and but you have to, to have somebody who is an agent. In fact, little did you know that there are others who appoint themselves agents without your knowledge. So the story is about corruption, about the Chief Justices without any, bringing any judgment. I think it's very, very, very interesting. Obviously, the story of Chesoni and the way it summoned every woman in court and transferred them. You don't have, she doesn't have to say she was dealing with a male chauvinist. But it's a beautiful story told, and the interpretations are between the lines, and that's what I really liked about it. Yeah.
Daktari, what's your take?
I've gone through her book, and I really get so inspired because knowing that she grew up in the highlands of Gusii region, where those days, even going to the university itself, ruled you out of getting a husband. Couldn't make a husband because you'd be untamable.
Oh.
So now, to make it worse, she goes to do law. So it means even the language that husband has to speak in the house, has got to be really, a legal language. So I'd like to understand really, beyond what you just explained, those days, how did it just happen that you decided to go and do law? Because some of us, we were being told to be teachers, like so-and-so's daughter, a nurse.
Yeah.
What pushed you? What is it?
I actually never chose law from high school because I was convinced that if I do law, I will not get a husband. But it is at that time that I met my current husband, and we were friends. And he encouraged me. He asked me, "You've passed very well. Why are you going to do a general degree?" Actually, I was in the BA class for a few months.
Below average.
Yes. And I remember my first assignment. I was doing literature, and my first assignment was compare the literary styles of Michelle Mugo and Ngugi wa Thiong'o.
Yes.
And it is at this moment my husband told me, that time he was still my friend,
Your
why
boyfriend.
don't you study law? I never told him why I left it out. But I went smiling all the way to the Faculty of Law and filled the form, and the rest is history.
Oh, so the community did not know.
The community
that-
did not know.
Yeah, and that explains it.
But Judge, then it looks like you had known that you could get a husband, isn't it?
And I think that's why I ran to do law, because now I have the future husband,
Yes.
and I can do the career of my dream. But one thing that inspired me to study law is this visit of auctioneers to our home. One of my favorite stories, and I'll do an excerpt about it. When auctioneers just visited our home, and my humble mom welcomed them. She didn't know they were auctioneers. And those days, I think auctioneers would be offered a meal, because she told me she offered them a meal, after which they told her, we have come to cut away your goods. And she said, no, go to where my husband is working at the school. And she said, no, this is his home. And so when I came home and our house was empty, I was curious, what is this? We didn't have a lawyer in the village. And that incident is one of the things that made me curious about studying law and deciding to do law and help people understand their rights.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe actually, Dr. Jane, we can start with you.
Yes.
I'm curious also to understand, because you seem very drawn to how she ended up studying law despite the circumstances at that time.
Yes.
So maybe you can tell us, what do you think then is the importance of education as a tool to empower, particularly women, so that they can take up some of these jobs that we consider to be either for the men, or they are not very suitable for women because maybe of the other responsibilities that, you know, come with women?
I think education, and taking it from, you know, where Lady Justice has reached, it's really one that breaks the myth that girls cannot scale the heights that our male children can. And also that there are certain professions which are preserved of the men and not the girls. So her achievement actually is a big inspiration to not only the local community that she comes from, but now the entire world. And, you know, even that being documented in the form of a book, they'll actually be used to, you know, inspire others that, yes, you can be what you want if you work at it. And I really get so amazed. In fact, she was one of those ladies that I also grew up in Kisii. We used to look up to them, you know, and we still do. So even when you find yourself at some level, you still find there's somebody again above you that you look up to. So really, so it is really very important that as we build the society, work together, we should not leave anyone behind. Not the girl child, not the boy child, but they should all be, you know, supported to achieve their dreams.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And maybe you can also tell us about, what do you consider to be the importance of, you know, lifelong learning and personal growth?
You see, what I would like now, what I see in Lady Justice Ongeri is that just beyond that formal education, you get a degree, first, second, third degree, you still find that we are living in a very fast changing world. You know, it's a lot of transformations, digital transformation and all that. And so you have to adapt very quickly and reconfigure yourself. Otherwise, you are you'll be left behind. And so for her, I get encouraged that even all the time, she's learning seminars, conferences, professional, you know, certifications. That's what all of us do. I mean, I see myself in her because I realize if your pulse is not on the environment, the changing environment, you cannot be able to fit in. So it is very important that even after we achieve our professional qualifications, we still continue to repurpose ourselves, to align ourselves to the new environment and be able to deliver better than we have delivered. And so I'm so happy with my sister here. And even in the way she's launching this book, we're so used to, going to a big hall and, that's where, you have a crowd and physically launching it. So you see, this is the adaptation we are talking about. Completely digital transformation. This is very good.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. So those of you watching us, I hope you are taking a few notes so that you are encouraged and you know that it is possible to break the glass ceiling. Through education, you can actually, achieve your dreams. So maybe to you, Lord Chief Justice Emeritus, you've been very passionate about mentorship, and Lady Justice is also quite passionate about mentorship, both being mentored. It is often said that I can see further because I am standing on the shoulders of giants. What do you think would be the role of mentorship in helping people? Because there are many people viewing us today. They are saying, if Lady Justice could write a book, I think I can also write a book. If she was able to break the glass ceiling, I can do that. She came from the village, rose up to be where she is today, 35 years, How can I get there? And as a mentor, and of course, having risen to the highest office in the judiciary, what would be your message maybe to the younger generation who are saying, we want one day to get to the top of our careers?
Yeah, mentorship tends to be seen as something that involves two people. Okay? So it can be hierarchical. But I didn't encounter this word myself until probably after my university. It wasn't there when I was studying law. We talked of advisors, role models.
Yes.
You talked about what you want to become. And you could get that answers to those questions from the books you read, about certain professors, about certain theologians, and so forth. And even the people who are dead, but yet, they influence your intellectual and political and ideological, capacities. So, when I got to find people asking me, "Can you mentor me?" That's when I realized mentorship has to be what I call reverse mentorship. Okay, reverse in the sense that you always learn something from the other person.
Yes.
Even if it's your granddaughter, you always find that she can mentor you on something that you don't know. And also mentorship is like a contract. It's not static. It can change. For example, I don't think Judge Ongeri, would hesitate to end a mentorship if she finds that a particular person has no integrity.
Yeah.
Okay, because you get that, from a book, from history. So there is something about mentorship that people think is permanent. It shouldn't. It should be something that benefits everybody, and you should breach that contract if you find, that it's not working. So I think it's relational. In fact, if you're involved in activism or some social movement, you find that the mentorship is based on everybody being equal. And what happens is that you look at the qualities of a particular person and their strength, okay? Because you are involved in a collective activity. So there are people who are very good at organizing things. There are some who spend time thinking. There are some who are teachers. And so in a movement or in a church, you know, you find that that category becomes, something else. But I think it's the best thing is where if it's two people, is where you ask the other person, what is it for me? If you are Gen Z, I want to know exactly what makes you tick, because I'm not in that generation, and it's a generation that is exciting everybody, and we want to find out exactly what the anger is about and how they want to solve it. So it's very fluid, but it's important. It's important because we all need help in various ways, and that's why the issue of faith, the issue of the Creator, is also another form of mentorship, because I think it's the Creator also gives you the leeway. I remember that story of who is it who killed his brother Cain, right?
Yes.
He killed Abel, and God was telling him that you have a free will, but there are consequences. So in a lot of disciplines, you find that happening. And of course, it's also a generational thing. You might, when she was talking to Judge Bosire, who was telling her, don't write judgments at home, you got to do it, in the courts. It was based on Bosire's experience as a judge. And he was telling her how to be effective. So still the relational one doesn't disappear. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I don't know, Lady Justice Asnap, maybe you can just add on to a bit of what His Lordship has mentioned about the importance of mentorship for you in your journey that also contributes to this book today.
Oh, yes. I also benefited from mentors.
Yeah.
And I have told a story where I was standing at the window of the office and looking at the car park. And I saw a Mercedes car driving in. And it stopped, and a lady came out. Someone ran from the front left seat and opened the door, and this lady stepped out. And I recognized her as one of the people who had interviewed me for the job of magistrate. She was a judge of the High Court. And I said, when I grow up, I want to be like her. And years later, we are now talking about many years later, I had now become a judge of the High Court. And I was stationed at Kericho, and I came with my driver and my usher. And we arrived at the Supreme Court building. And my usher came out and opened my door for me. And that flashback came.
Wow.
So there are people who inspire you. At the time when I became a magistrate, there were only 3 lady judges in the High Court. I've mentioned them in the book, and they were an inspiration to me. They had broken the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And those years there was no constitution, people were not applying for these jobs. And therefore, getting there for a lady, it was not easy. But I kept on trusting, kept on looking to my mentors.
Yeah.
And one day, I found myself now in the High Court. And now, when I talk to young professionals, I also encourage them to stick to their dream, no matter how long it takes. One day, they will find that they have reached where they wanted to reach in this life.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, and my co-moderator actually, you wanted to add something?
Well, I just concur with what she has said. It's all true for all of us. Yeah, there is somebody somewhere who
Yes.
really very instrumental to what we become. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my co-moderator is younger than Judge, still in the judiciary. So how is mentorship important, especially maybe to you? And how do you relate with her story and her story in the book on mentorship?
Thank you, Lorraine. For me, in fact, I wanted to ask my Lord and my Lady. In the judiciary, we have this gap of judges and magistrates. So to me, mentorship, personally, at a personal level, mentorship is personal. I look at someone and I like the judge, I like what she does, then I talk to myself, this is my mentor. But the judges are very busy, magistrates are very busy. In some organizations, you are given a buddy coach. So I'm looking at a situation where when Emeritus was serving in the judiciary, we started having the mentorship programs, but we would have them in like a colloquium. So you'll find it's not very easy for you to have a personal mentor you're working with. Then with the transfers, I look up to Judge Ongeri as my mentor. She's now in Voi. When I call her, she's busy. So maybe, my Lord and my Lady, if you can comment on that, mentorship in the judiciary, how do we break that ceiling to just ensure that we have, now we have Gen Z, we have the millennials, there's that gap in the judiciary of the groupings. Then we have the magistrates and the judges. How do the magistrates get into the judges to tap that knowledge and get mentored?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I was in the judiciary, the fundamental issue we were engaged in was the transformation. And there were, specific issues like when it came to the issue of women. There were many women in the judiciary, but they were not in leadership. Okay, there will be the magistrates and there will be the cleaners, etc. Also, the salary disparities. So there were burning issues, that we dealt with. Although there was some, for my office, for example, I remember asking judges to start writing because I knew that the moment judges started writing, they were either transferred so that they couldn't continue. There were judges who came to me, like Meoli, and said that she did her master's secretly because she didn't want the judiciary to know because they would have stopped it. So in terms of, reforms, what I've called external, mentoring for everybody, making sure that there were those spaces, to do it. We also looked at the sexual harassment, and they came up with the policy, so that personal relationship, like the mentorship, can be abused, of course, sometimes. And so we made sure that happened, and action, can be taken. And I think also within the Office of Chief Justice, I think we created scholarships, and the Supreme Court had clerks who are involved in exchange. And the issue of clerks in the High Court, Court of Appeal, and Supreme Court was also part of that mentorship, reverse actually, because those who are doing your research and telling, writing briefs on what you asked. You're also learning from them. You're learning from them, and a lot of those people are either going to the university, to teach in the university, or they have become magistrates. And then there were institutional mentorships, like creating close ties between the academy, and the judiciary. Because you see, that constitution brought in changes that were amazing. Judges used to be picked from the judiciary itself. But after 2010, you bring in judges from universities, from corporate sector, from civil society sector, all right? So that it was a nice mix of talents and whatnot. And that was very, very, very helpful, particularly the institutional, the judiciary and lawyers. The lawyers, we always have this, we call it a learned profession, but we are very ignorant in other professions, okay? So what you did by becoming a pastor, for example, and writing books about faith, it's very, very, very important in the judiciary. Because I'm sure a lot of people would have said, no, write something on law, okay? Because of the way the legal profession feels that it's the learned one. And yet the Constitution itself says the interpretation can't be legal-centric, And the judges now, you see, there's a lot of religion, theology that is coming in the courts because of the Constitution itself, which in the preamble says we acknowledge the existence of, supreme, the Almighty God, of all creation, and their beliefs are protected, and so there are theological, arguments coming into the judiciary. So if you have a judge who is well read, in terms of the scriptures, you can imagine, and there is a bench that is dealing with a particular theological question, you have that experience, inside. So, but they were very urgent, matters, but I can think of those of basically getting people who do your research, and they are young people, and you interact with them, and they actually teach you because they are the ones who have done the research. Yeah.
I wanted to add something.
Yes.
So I also feel that mentorship even begins from a very early age. Because I remember when I was in primary school, my grandfather, who never saw the inside of a school, could always make it a duty to come to school, see the headmaster, and find out how the grandchildren are doing. And then from there, put us together and start to counsel us how we should conduct ourselves, when we're in school and the like. And, it gave us that, momentum that, we want grandpa to be happy, And, I found that was quite transformative. Then came my mom, my mother, great mentor, went up to class 1, but knew that as a girl, she'll tell you as a girl, that, the thing that is going to help you, help you really transform yourself and the family is education. So that any time you could come from school and she doesn't see you having 3 exercise books, 3 pencils, 3 rubbers, because if you have that, then you have been position 1. Then, now, there she will ululate in the kiss style. Then we find that the teachers, primary school teachers, the master and the like could call us and tell us, you are my daughters. Yeah. And I believe in you. You will make it. Don't be discouraged by this voice. We used to be bullied. Yeah. Don't be discouraged. Push on. And I will tell you, I found it very, very transformation. And the high school we went to, oh my God. I think if there was anything that really brought a turnaround, it's the high school. So that you find now, finally, when you transition, after university, you transition to work, that becomes an add-on. You're already grounded.
Yeah.
You know what you're looking for, you know, in the people around you asking the right questions, where can I go to, and the like. So it is very important that I feel that beyond now this book launch and the like, we need to go to the ground, we need to go to the communities to engage with the young girls. And also positive parenting, very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So those of you watching, our viewers, please note that you can get the book. It's available. If you want a signed copy, you can get it at knowledgefortransformation.com. I'll read that slowly so that you can get it. Knowledge for Transformation, just the way I'm reading it, no spaces in between, .com. And you'll be able to get yourself a copy of The Making of a Judge. And that's our key discussion today and the themes in that book. So I think my co-moderator still has a few questions for you, Lady Justice. So maybe she can ask one or two and then we can continue from there.
Judge, maybe to those who are aspiring to be judges, your book is titled The Making of a Judge. It's a vigorous process for those of us who've seen how a judge is interviewed. For you to become a judge, we believe initially we thought a judge must have gray hair. Yes, it's actually a vigorous process. So what is your message to those who are aspiring to be judges?
To be a judge is a noble career. Actually, it is God who is the righteous judge. And those of us who are Christians believe that this world will end with judgment. And therefore, those aspiring to be judges, my advice to you is that you judge for God. You have got to be a person of integrity. You've got to do the right thing. Judge cases according to the law and to the facts, not according to your personal persuasions or influence from other parties. So I encourage many young people to take up this career. It is a noble career. There is mighty satisfaction when you listen to parties and write a well-reasoned judgment and met justice. I call the part of delivering judgment the fruit, because the fruit has to be sweet. And when you do the right thing and you met judgment, you sentence someone who is guilty, or you set free someone who is falsely accused, you go home and sleep like a baby. Then you are very happy because you have done the right thing. I encourage many young people to take up this career. It is a noble career as a lawyer and as a magistrate and as a judge.
So no shortcuts.
No shortcuts.
They should work their career ground up.
Yes. And you must work hard in school. I remember this one incident where I mentioned this young lady who is my mentor. She was teaching in secondary as an untrained teacher from the university when I was about to do my exams. And my father noticed I had a challenge in maths. I always tell young people, please work hard in maths. You will need it. As a deputy registrar, I know Linda does a lot of maths, taxing bills. So this lady noticed that I had a mental block. And she talked to me. I told her I do very well in all other subjects except maths. And I told her, those years we believed that maths was a boys' thing. And we girls were good in other subjects, but not maths. But because of that mentorship, she told me, go back and find out where did you start failing in maths. And I looked back and I found that in Form 2 somewhere, I developed an attitude that maths is a boys' thing. And she told me, if you want to go to that university you are talking about, work hard in maths. So I picked it from there. I revised, looked for a girl in my class who liked maths, talked to the maths teacher, and I was able to get to pass maths and get Division 1 and go to the university. So I'm encouraging young people to work hard. Work hard in all subjects. Work hard. I have seen people having challenges now with English. Yeah, if you don't pass in English, if you don't pass in maths, it will be very difficult to get into the law profession. So I encourage young people to work very hard and to read a lot of literature, read a lot of books, read widely.
Maybe Daktari and Judge, you've all heard that there are no jobs in the country, and young people have given up. They're saying we don't really need that education for me to get money. I'm better off doing other things than getting formal education. Maybe what is your take on that, Daktari?
Okay, now let me speak. Like I'm the chairman of the University Council, and for us, what we are telling our students, we are not training you to go and be employees. We are training you to be employers. Because if you look at all these countries that are actually don't have issues with jobs, it is because they have believed and supported startups. So that you find that before our students could graduate, we need to go through a motion where they could tell us, present their startups. So I want to tell you, I have this, I have that, and I need to be incubated. So we had an incubation program. So for me, it is one thing that this situation speaks to us to actually invest in what matters. How do we start investing in, bringing out those ideas, entrepreneurial ideas from our children, our graduates, so that you find that there are those who will end up becoming employed, but there are those ones also will create jobs, so that they employ much more than otherwise wouldn't be. So for those ones who feel like not disenfranchised, I will ask them, the basic degree or the basic certification you have, all it does, it gives you the powers to read and to do all that appertains to that degree. That means it equips you with the skills to think differently, to look at the world around you for opportunities, and also to know that opportunities are not only the white-collar jobs. They'll be surprised that even some of us, after getting our professional degrees, we still went back to things like farming. And it's very, very profitable. We went doing many other things, the home science, which we used to despise. Now you find that you're having a top-of-the-range restaurant and stuff like that. So those are the powers you get to read and to do all. So me, normally when I mentor, I speak to quite a lot of them. I tell them, stop complaining. What is it that you can do within your space? Is it a poultry business? Could I help you have like now an incubator and start a poultry program? If you look at the population, the way we are growing, by 2030, Kenya will be about 65 to 70 million. What will they be feeding on? They will need food. And you play a role in the food supply chain. What is it that you can do? So what we need to do, for me, is the mentorship. The mentorship to know that when you're going for field work in a farm, we used to go to rice fields, where we used to go to, Kisumu, whatever. You say, that is for somebody else, it's not for me. And yet, people have serious enterprises in that area. So there is what we can do as professionals now to mentor them and to help them to start kind of looking at opportunities, looking at the world, that there are opportunities. So even my own children, I'm a mother of 2 children, 2 boys. Both of them resigned from their former employment. They said their potential is being locked in. Their ceiling is determined. Said, I can have, and so they've started their own companies. It is very difficult to start. And that's where now we need to have the environment, an enabling environment for businesses, for small businesses to thrive. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think that there's hope.
There's hope.
Yes. I wanted to say the problem I find with education, I mean the way it's structured, is that we don't identify talents.
Yes.
And so it's like what we call a cut or dip, where you want all the animals to go in there and cure them of ticks and so forth. Our education system will have to do that, to see, and every mother knows that, like your mother, she could see your potential, but it can be cured within the education system so that it doesn't. And then there is the other thing that people should glorify. There are a lot of great people in the world who are self-educated. Okay, you might not go to a formal school, but the self-educated people have become great because even formal education has its limitations. So you find people like Malcolm X, for example. Malcolm X, he went to high school, then he got into crime, and he did his reading in prison completely. And then he became, a reader of everything. That's how he got into religion, into politics, into everything else, into activism. Mao Zedong, who became a general, a leader, also wasn't a graduate. And there is a Kenyan called Abdulatif Abdallah, who was a dropout. He quit school when he was in standard 7, but he was self-educated, and he started writing stuff as well, and became a professor. Who else do I have in mind? A guy called Huey Newton, who was the leader of the Black Panthers in the U.S. Self-educated. So even that has to be glorified, particularly when some young people we don't have universal, education. But if you spot the talent, there's always something that people can read. Although I think ideally education ought to be free. You see, our generation, for example, my father was a tailor. There's no way he would have paid school fee at university or high school or wherever. But the colonial government that we sometimes attack, if you went to secondary school, the counties would give you bursaries. When you went to university during our time, the government paid tuition, paid you very generous stipend. In fact, in that we used to fly the East African Airways. It was, I think, 200 shillings, return. But the government paid that. But of course, this is a period of independence where you knew the moment you were done your all levels, you're going to get a job. But things keep on changing, and you can see you now saying that education requires, as you say, people focusing on areas that we used to say home sciences, for instance, or agriculture. I won't do this kind of stuff. But fundamentally, the issue that our kids are asking about jobs and so forth is fundamentally a political question. It's those who rule have to address those particular issues. And you will never give young people jobs if the stealing continues, the wastage of resources. You need to be in the public service to see how resources are wasted. Yes. Oh yeah, but you see it, MPs going for retreats when they should be in their offices and so forth. And wastage, I mean, people hiring jets to go to meetings and so forth. When the easiest thing for me is we buy the president a jet, which can cross the Atlantic. I think the one we have can only fly to Dubai. That one stays. Yeah. So I think all I'm saying is we need, just like health and like food and everything else, because the resources are ours, right? We need to make sure our leaders are really accountable and they do the right thing. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you. I'd like us to try and wind up our discussion today. So I'll just ask each of you, maybe in 2 minutes, to just give us your takeaways from the book and maybe lessons that you want to share with those that will be watching and joining this book launch. But for you, Lady Justice, maybe you can just tell us maybe 2 key points that you are communicating in the book and why those that are in this launch should ensure that they rush and get a copy now as we speak. Yeah.
I think for me the most important thing is the theme of having faith.
Yeah.
Because I must say that many people think faith is a thing of the past or something that is not relevant to modern society. But I trace my journey to this point as having been guided by God. I was excited about the new constitution of Kenya 2010, and 2 of the things that made me very happy is the fact that it recognizes God and acknowledges God in its preamble, and also Article 159, which tells us the principles to use as tribunals and courts, and among them, alternative justice systems, reconciliation, mediation. And in my book, I have talked about my own personal transformation before the Judiciary Transformation Framework by Chief Justice Emeritus Dr. William Mutunga. I had already started that transformation. Transformation starts with you. I think my message is that be the change you want to see. And I believe that my journey of faith brought me to where I am. I recognize these as footprints of faith. And these are stories that shaped my life. And I want them to encourage someone who thinks that their dreams are far-fetched or not attainable. Wherever you are, whoever you are, you can attain your dreams.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Maybe we can go to you, Dr. Nyakano. Maybe you can tell us yours. And then CJ Emeritus will share his. And then my co-moderator will close for us the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the 3 takeaways from her book is that education can transform lives, can transform you as a person from a very simple girl, and in the place she grew up in, and probably walking to school barefooted. Measuring the temperature, we call it you're measuring the temperature. Your foot is a thermometer. So it can transform you from that poor rural village girl to really a judge to the highest position even in the land, and probably a potential Chief Justice, which she wouldn't have been without it. But also, too, is that she becomes like the beacon in the society and is able to touch life and be an example, to other children and girls who are also aspiring to get that level. And then, of course, lastly, is that it opens opportunities beyond just being a judge. She's a writer now. So this is what I was saying, when you've been given the powers to read and to do all, you can do everything. She's now a writer. And I think she did indicate that she's going to be she's alternative
Justice system.
Justice system. That's her next passion. So it's really it's wonderful, and I feel that the legacy she has created, this imparting knowledge by documenting it in the form of a book is very, very, very important. Should impact generations and generations to come long after she's gone. And she has touched me. I probably am going to also think of doing my chronicles. Yes.
Wow. Okay. To you?
There are many, takeaways from this book. I've mentioned some, but I think the major audience, apart from the ordinary people, is an institution that is so pivotal in this society. I always tell people that if the judiciary collapses, it's then no other institutions will follow suit. It's the only one that has the courage that you can run there, and get justice. And even those people who used to think that they wouldn't require the judiciary, I guess people should go and talk to Uhuru Kenyatta and the Matiang'i. That when that happens, you have to go to the judiciary. That's how Uhuru's kids had their licenses, and their guns, retrieved. So I hope the judges who read this, and it also tells a story. See, when people say that the judiciary is corrupt, in most cases people tend to say no. These are people who are saying this and the other. Judge Ogeri gives incidents, and it shows one thing that is important for people to know, that a lot of corruption is actually carried through the lawyers themselves. It's a story there. You will read, about that. And also, there are cases. I think she discusses a painful case, which I read, and that's when I realized this country has cartels. This is somebody who wants to evict people who have built structures in parklands, and then although the judge doesn't say exactly what happened, but this person gets himself charged for building illegal structures. And he goes to court and he tells the court, I plead guilty, but don't be harsh on me because I'm going to destroy them. And then he destroys what were not his structures. All he wanted was to build a skyscraper there. So for judges, some of these stories, like where judges are maligned, how do you deal with that case? And you are a mother, and you are a wife, and you have children, and there are bloggers and other people basically saying you're corrupt or saying, telling lies. Filing a suit in defamation and liable is not enough. Okay, so there are all those trials and tribulations, and I think what Judge Ogeri is telling judges is that unless you have an anchor And in our case, it's faith. You can't really survive it, you know, because there's a lot of you know, problems that goes, you know, in the institution, and maybe that's why she lasted that long. I didn't last more than 5 years. It was 5 years, and I could still feel. I always tell this story that when I was going home after I retired, I found myself the next morning, you know, in the bathroom singing, "I'm free at last." Thank God Almighty. Yeah, it's unless you have an anchor, unless you have an anchor, and I think this is a major lesson I found in that book. You know, faith is important, and without it, when she got attacked, you know, she would have just become sick or whatever. And the other aspect that I saw that resonated with me is the whole question of your health, because she tells the story about her health, okay, that it's so critical, and she advises people on what to eat, and because she went through that, and she gained energy, and because the judiciary, of course, requires somebody who is, you know, very, very, very healthy. So it has a lot of the, you know, takeaways. And this thing she was saying that why she wanted to be a judge. I've realized in real life people join disciplines because they are mobilized by something. Okay, I found a lot of women in human rights work who are passionate because they were abused, and they basically said that I will be the last person to be abused, so they start fighting, you know, against that. But I think it's, and the last thing I wanted to say is a story that is brilliantly told. You know, you can read that book in I guess 2 hours.
Wow.
You know, you 2 hours. Yeah, it carries you along, and there is a story after story. There are stories that will make you, you know, cry, because, and that empathy, you know, judges have to have it. You know, so there is everything. I hope when it starts, when it's out, the first thing we'll do is to get the Chief Justice, buy every judge and magistrate a copy. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Laureen. For me, the lessons learned go beyond the courtroom. Whether you're a lawyer, a magistrate, a judge, or any other person just seeking wisdom, the lessons learned go far beyond the courtroom. And judges and judicial officers don't really tell their story. We are very conservative when it comes to our personal stories. In court and outside court. You'll find many a times they say if you're a magistrate or a judge, you'll not get married. Yes. It's difficult. But here is a story of a judge, a mother, a wife. Yes, so the lessons learned to me are very, very good lessons to all of us, and they go beyond this platform.
And there are men who are progressive, who allow their wives to be judges.
Is transforming.
Yes.
But not very fast.
Yeah, it's always slow. Patriarchy is...
All right. I think one person said something. They said, for women, the best career choice you can ever make is the husband you choose to get married to. So I think you made a very good choice. And so we appreciate your husband and of course your family. You acknowledge them at the beginning of the show. And so we say thank you to them for sharing you with the rest of us and the world, that we are able to benefit from your experience, from your knowledge, and of course from your service to the nation of Kenya and the nations beyond. So thank you so much. I want to take this opportunity to thank all those who are watching us today. We are launching the book, The Making of a Judge. It's a beautiful book and you need to get yourself a copy. We have told you can go to knowledgefortransformation.com and you'll get a signed copy immediately. It's not something you have to wait for it to be shipped. You get there, you will be able to get your own copy so that all these stories that we are talking about, you'll be able to read them, get inspired, share the links with others so that they can also be able to gain from the wisdom and the knowledge that is in this book. Again, we are on social media. Lady Justice Asnath is on social media. The links are showing currently on the screen. Please make sure you go there, follow, like, share, so that this message can go far and wide, because we want to be able to share this message of faith, message of transformation, message of, shattering glass ceilings, especially for women. So please get yourself a copy and make sure you tag us once you share anything that you've read in the book on social media. So thank you to our guests. Thank you so much for being part of this discussion today and for your immense contribution this evening to this discussion. Viewers, we are not done yet. We will take our